Well, it's been a very long and it's been a very demanding weekend, and I fully understand why the audience has diminished somewhat. It has been very, very difficult, and in the sense that it required an awful lot of concentration over a very long period. So I'm not going to be too long-winded on this occasion, you'll be glad to hear. But there are some observations I want to make. And first of all, I want to repeat that now we're over halfway through our consideration of the Eighth Amendment. So that's the good news element. I also want to make a few observations about the focus of our work to date. To date, our work has focused on providing the members with the information needed to be able to make informed recommendations to the Oireachtas on the Eighth Amendment of the Constitution. We have consistently tried to put the medical and legal material before you in a factual, neutral and balanced manner. Now, I have to say, this balance can be difficult to achieve in such a highly contested and controversial area. However, I want to assure everybody that the pursuit of balance has been fundamental to our work programme to date. The work programme has been informed by advice from the Expert Advisory Group and their ongoing analysis of the issues together with myself and the Secretariat. And I think the epithet I used last week to describe, or at the last weekend, to describe the assistance we've got from them as being invaluable. And I reiterate that. We have had invaluable assistance from the Expert Advisory Group, for which I personally am very grateful. Also, the feedback from you, the members, on the issues you wish to hear about has been of huge importance, particularly in terms of deciding how best to use the time available to us. In considering the overall approach to our work programme, and in particular when deciding on the correct sequence of the material to be put before you, it was important to me that the members be first presented with the factual and legal underlay of the issues which could arise in relation to the Eighth Amendment. In other words, what I'm saying is I wanted you to know how things happen on the ground, and I wanted you to know what the law is in practice. That's what I wanted you to know. I decided to do this by selecting speakers who were highly experienced and expert in their respective fields, but who had not expressed a viewpoint on the position or a position on the Eighth Amendment. I also set out to ensure that speakers with connections to organisations which are regarded as promoting one side of the issues would be asked to present a factual narrative of the position on the ground. In other words, what I'm saying is they were asked, and in fact in explicit terms, not to adopt an advocacy approach. This has meant that for the most part, members have been able to listen to the material put before them in the knowledge that the speaker is not coming with a bias or an agenda and that the information is balanced. This approach, I think, being probably novel in this debate, has served the members and the wider public watching the work of the Assembly. It has served them well, I think. I'm firmly of the view that it was important to establish this baseline of medical and legal knowledge for the members before members would begin to hear contested viewpoints. Members will be aware, however, that in a number of ethics sessions, including the session this morning, we have begun to put both sides of the abortion debate before you. I feel that this has been a useful way to introduce you to some of the arguments presented from the pro-choice and the pro-life side in a way that is calm, reasonable and measured. Now, just to look to the future, and I just specifically to look to the work programme for the remaining weekends. As I said previously, we are beyond the halfway point, and now we must look towards the remaining work programme. At the March meeting, we will spend some time addressing a number of outstanding legal issues identified by the members as gaps in the material we have put before you today. It is important that as much legal clarity as possible can be provided to you before we begin to think about recommendations in the fifth weekend. Since the first meeting of the Citizens' Assembly on the Eighth Amendment, the members have consistently said that they want to hear directly from women who have been affected by the Eighth Amendment. Hearing personal testimony like this is important, as it allows the citizens the opportunity to hear firsthand about how the matters they are discussing at these weekends affect women and their families. Therefore, at the March meeting of the Assembly, we will be hearing directly from women who have been affected by the Eighth Amendment. In presenting this testimony and in making the necessary arrangements for it, we have been guided by a number of key principles, including that the women who offer to share their stories are dealt with sensitively and compassionately, and that the stories put before the Assembly are balanced. It is clear that personal testimony can be very compelling and may speak to individual members of the Assembly in a way that medical, legal, or ethics experts cannot. For this reason, it is essential that the personal stories provide the members with experience across a spectrum of circumstances, and that is what we are hoping to achieve. Following this, the Assembly will hear from advocacy groups. Submissions were received from a wide range of advocacy groups and other interest and representative organisations. As you know, you've seen the list. We have heard from political parties, trade unions, various bodies. Publication of those submissions was prioritised, and they're now available online. And a full list, as you know, was circulated to the members. Over the course of over the course of this weekend, members were asked to indicate which groups they would like to which groups they would like to present to the Assembly, and were asked to list 3 advocacy groups on both sides of the debate. They would like to hear oral presentations from. Based on this, an agenda of speakers for the weekend will be drawn up by the Secretariat early next week in order to ensure balance both on the day and balance in the overall programme. The final decision as to which groups will be invited will be made by me as chair. And I'm conscious of the fact that some of the members are a little bit concerned that perhaps they haven't put enough thought into this, but I'll bear that in mind in terms of what you've suggested, and the overall objective will be to ensure a balance and to ensure that you get the best presentations to assist you to make informed recommendations in due course. As I've said previously, our final weekend in April will focus on the recommendations to be made to the Oireachtas, and we'll say more about that next weekend. Now, I just want to refer briefly to the submissions before I conclude. And the publication of the submissions is ongoing, and I'm sure you're all wondering about this. What is the figure she's going to give us now? Well, I can say that over 7,900 submissions have already been published on the website, and those of you who are good at subtraction will realise that the number has gone up by 400 since yesterday. In any event, as I've said previously, publication is done in chronological order, and the Secretariat is now publishing the online submissions received on the last day of the process. On that day alone, over 3,000 submissions were received online. Simultaneously, the Secretariat is now publishing the submissions received by post on the 15th and 16th of December, the last 2 days before the deadline, when over 3,000 individual postal submissions were received. So that work is ongoing and hopefully will be concluded as soon as possible. As yesterday morning's discussion on the submissions has shown, the random selection has invoked a range of views among the citizens. Having said that, I have no doubt that in hearing the different perspectives and widening their overall knowledge of the issues the members have benefited from the submissions. We will dedicate a further session to the submissions at the March meeting. And I said this yesterday, we will give further consideration to how the submissions may be utilised to inform the process overall. On that note, I will conclude the Assembly's proceedings today. All that is left is to thank everybody, all of the members, for their contribution this weekend. It just is amazing the effort the members make and the degree of engagement at every minute of the process. I look forward to seeing you all on the 4th and 5th of March. Thank you very much.